Hey y'all, happy Tuesday. Hopefully you are doing well. Hello to everybody in the chat and coming into the room. If you are not following me on Twitter, that's probably where I am the most active throughout the week. Go ahead and give me a follow over at Twitter, RhondaMary, Rhonda. I am Rhonda Mary. I'm also on Facebook. I am Rhonda Mary, as well as find me on TikTok, Instagram, and I think that's about it. I am Rhonda Mary, Rhonda underscore Mary, some version of Rhonda Mary, just considering the amount of times I've been censored and banned and kicked off and had to restart and all these other things. But if you go over to RhondaMary.com, you will find all of this information and where to find me. Also, if you would like to support this channel by buying merch, I also have that over there at RhondaMary.com as well. All right. Hey, King BJ. Hey, Elwer Ivy. Hey, JB1. Hey, 89 Thunderfoot. All right, y'all. So tonight, let's talk about who is holding America's purse. Let's talk about what's happening to that and how the government is around here acting while everyday Americans are really on the brink. Okay. Inflation is rising. Okay. While wages are not. Well, I read some reports that said that it's maybe on average raising just a little bit, but it's definitely not it's not comparable. It's not keeping up with the rate of inflation. Uh and so, some people really struggling. And you have the holidays coming up. You have the colder months where, people are more probably in the house more. You need your heater going, right? All these other things. You may want to get some gifts for the babies and the loved ones coming up. And people are checking their wallets, they're checking their bank accounts, and they're like, what's going on here? And so tonight we're going to talk about it because the American government is able to get away with so much while they sit here and penny pinch us, belittle us, refuse to give us straightforward answers about what the heck is going on. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. So, in case you guys didn't know, there are reports that, and let me go ahead and show you guys this. There are reports that they are going to be trying to audit the Biden administration to the tune of 20 billion. Okay, what the heck is going on with the money? What the heck is going on with the weapons that you are sending over to Ukraine? Okay, and we're going to talk about that in a second too. So this is according to WashingtonTimes.com. House Republicans call for Ukraine aid audit. A group of House Republicans is calling for more scrutiny over U.S. taxpayer-funded aid to Ukraine as Congress takes up a White House request for an additional $38 billion in support of Kyiv. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene is leading a resolution calling for an audit of more than 54 billion in military and economic assistance approved by Congress since the Russian invasion. The American people, the taxpayers of this country, deserve to know where their money is going and how it is being spent, the Georgia Republican said Thursday. The GOP fireman has been critical of sending U.S. taxpayer dollars to Ukraine, arguing that the funds should be put to use to secure American southern borders, a position held by a small group of Republicans since the start of the war. Now, keep that in mind. This is not like some large swath. This is not like half the House or half the Senate. Like, yeah, we need to see what's going on with this war. We need to find better ways to spend this money. No, this is a very small group of people, okay? We're ignoring the dangers happening in our country while we are completely protecting another country's borders and waging a proxy war with Russia, she said. Okay, so just in case if you guys didn't know, they are saying that the United States has only inspected about 10% of the 22,000 weapons that have been provided to Ukraine. 10%, the US currently has inspected about 10% of the weapons, 22,000 weapons that have been sent to Ukraine. So we are literally funding this war, don't know where the money is going, sending these weapons, don't know what's going on with the weapons. And then you actually have leaders in Europe, saying, oh, well, we hope this audit doesn't affect you guys, helping Ukraine and supporting Ukraine and the efforts in Ukraine and protecting these human rights and this and the other. That's very easy for you to say when you're not opening up your wallet. Very easy for you to talk and complain about dinner when you ain't paying for the food. But let's keep going. So, according to this is defense.gov, okay? Since 2014, the United States has committed more than 20.3 billion in security assistance to Ukraine, and approximately 17.6 billion of that is since the beginning of Russia's unprovoked and brutal invasion on February 24th. So, they got to keep rolling. They got to keep it, keep you on your toes, make you feel like, it's the worst thing in the world. Where, don't get me wrong, we absolutely support human rights. We want people to have human rights. But I believe that if you just be honest with yourself, you can obviously see that this is a proxy war. Okay, the United States is doing just enough to feel like, okay, let's weaken Russia, let's have Ukraine do the dirty work, we'll just send the money, we'll just fund it, and we somewhat keep our hands clean. We can somewhat go on the TV and say, oh, look what we're doing for human rights, when let's just be serious. Like, many levels has its own human rights and human rights issues. Even us just talking about the medical tyranny and the outright tech oligarchy, that has happened over the last few years, and all the other things that I'll be talking about on Twitter. If you don't follow me on Twitter, you should be, because sometimes when I get in the mood to talk about this stuff, I drop the facts and the links and the articles, right? Like, even the United States being a leader, I think literally number one in imprisoned individuals, okay? And we know that I can't even remember the percentage, but many of those being nonviolent offenses. But let me not, let me, because people like to go around policing and you don't have your own house in order, and I think that that's what, these House Republicans that are taking this, trying to audit, saying like, look, we're sending money. To be perfectly fair, you can't even account for all the money. So it's not like we can see where the money is going. And we see all these other things that you could be doing right at home for the American people. And so the crazy part about this is that there were rumors, okay? And I'm going to say rumors right now. I'm going to say allegedly, because I don't believe that any of our media has, or any of our mainstream media has, what's the word I'm looking for, validated this. Okay, they could have their reasons not to, we never know with these people. But I'm gonna read this to you guys from responsiblestatecraft.org. So there were some rumors floating, okay, that there were actually peace talks back in April, but between, Europe, between the United States wanting to weaken Russia, between the UK, basically salivating at the mouth to weaken Russia, to continue this proxy war, to spend and funnel more money, are not buying into the peace talks. Okay. So Diplomacy Watch. Did Boris Johnson help stop a peace deal in Ukraine? So a recent piece in Foreign Affairs, which is like a global magazine that talks about these different issues all over the globe. Okay. They revealed that there had been a tentative deal to end the war all the way back in April. Russia and Ukraine may have agreed on a tentative deal to end the war. Russia and Ukrainian negotiators appear to have tentatively agreed on the outlines of a negotiated interim settlement, wrote Fiona Hill and Angela Stent. Russia should withdraw to its poison on February 23rd when it controlled part of the Donbas region and all of Crimea. Crimea. In exchange, Ukraine would promise not to seek NATO membership and instead receive security guarantees from a number of countries. Okay. The news highlights the impact of former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson's efforts to stop negotiations. As journalist Branko Marcetic noted on Twitter, the decision to scuttle the deal coincided with Johnson's April visit, during which he reportedly urged Zelensky to break off talks with Russia for two key reasons. Putin cannot be negotiated with, and the West isn't ready for the war to end. Okay? So some of this report that I'm reading to you guys, some of this information actually came from people that were in Zelensky's camp when they were basically thinking about making these negotiations, right? But I want you to think about that. Putin cannot be negotiated with. Let's think about all the buildup of Russia, bad, that has been happening over the last several years. Now, don't get me wrong. I am in no way saying that Russia is just some perfect, peaceful haven or whatever. But first of all, the United States, or anybody for that matter, should have a invested interest in peace and saving taxpayers' money, if anything else. Okay. That seems just like common sense to me, to want to handle things as peacefully and as amicably as possible. All right. And so even if we think back to several years ago, you had people being caught. I mean, random people. Anytime. Oh, let me go off this so I can talk to y'all real quick. The last several years, anytime people have stepped out of the mainstream narrative, have went against the grain, went against the beaten path, said anything that was quote unquote out of line, okay, they were accused of being Russian bots, of being Russian propaganda, Russian agents, Putin's, what were they calling them? Putin something. Okay. As if Putin was hiring, conspiring with people in America to have more unpopular opinions. Okay. Uh, anybody that was questioning any black people, let me go back. Any black person that was questioning anything that the Democrats was doing, Russian bots. Uh, uh, I think that you had the protests accused Russian bots. People that were protesting, I believe, COVID lockdowns at one point were Russian agents and getting misinformation and just it was so ridiculous. It was so ridiculous to a point where I'm talking about almost anything was accused of being they just made it so the Hunter Biden laptop, Russian propaganda, you know, uh, any concerns about voting or mail-in ballots, Russian propaganda. It became this catch-all phrase to attach anything that was not liked about the establishment and not appreciated by the establishment, to cast it off, to denigrate it, to as a way to ignore it or smear it, right? It just became this just catch all phrase, particularly for I remember people like Rachel Maddow. Okay, at that time that was one of her favorite excuses to use for, oh, you shouldn't even consider this thing because that's just Russian propaganda. That's just, those are Russian Putin's agents, right? And so all of this buildup, it's of course it's gonna just be easy to throw it off and be like, oh, Putin would never negotiate, and Americans gonna believe it because the whole time they've been baiting us and programming us to believe that, oh, this person is just you can't even negotiate. You can't even, you know, you can't find peace with this person. You must continue this war. And it seems to me that you can have a lot of politicians that will have an invested interest when they have stocks, when they have certain people, funding their campaigns, okay, and all these other things. It seems to me a lot of them can have an invested interest in continuing this war. And like I said, not even just for the money reason and the money disappearing and all these different avenues where people are able to make money off of war. Okay. I guess peace doesn't make you as much money. But also the not only making the money, on the back end, but the money and the weapons on the front end that are going missing. Thank you so much for the super sticker, the Ryder Walker. Thank you so much. Now, as all of this is happening, it has come out, okay, that the Pentagon, these same people that are saying don't audit us, because of course you have some people pushing back against this audit. Oh, this is frivolous. This is just more Russian propaganda. Like, think about that. Think about how think about how it looks that as a politician, you don't even want to be accountable to the people. So much so that if somebody said, like, y'all don't hold back when it comes to auditing us. I mean, years later, y'all don't hold back. That's not Russian propaganda, right? But somehow, some way, when a very small segment of Congress says, hey, we don't know where a lot of this money is going. Let's get this audit going and see exactly where these taxpayer dollars are going. And you have politicians like, nah, that's just Russian propaganda. Like, don't even pay attention to that. Screw that. I mean, Putin must have said that himself. Like, Putin is just the devil at this point. The lack of accountability really is offensive. It's an insult to our intelligence. It's beneath the position that these people take and the oath that they take and the way that they try to play us and manipulate us. And very few people, I believe, and I somewhat talked about this a little bit on Twitter the other day, but very few people, I believe, are actually standing on the principles of what they're supposed to be doing when they go into DC, right? But we'll come back to that. So as you have a bigger segment of Congress saying, oh, no, don't audit us. That's just Russian propaganda. Turn a blind eye. Oh, no, we're handling the money correctly. We have to just protect human rights. We have to do what we have to do, what we have to do, what we have to do. This is according to nationalpriorities.org. Pentagon fails another audit, yet Congress poised to approve 847 billion budget. Anti-war advocates blasted U.S. lawmakers on Thursday, one day after it was reported that Congress is expected to pass an 847 billion military budget for the coming fiscal year, even though the Pentagon recently failed its fifth consecutive annual audit and nearly 40 million people nationwide are living in poverty. How many times do you think they will let you fail an audit, Mr. or Mrs. American tax-paying citizen? How much grace do you think they would give you? The American government is the only entity able to fail time and time and time again, and they get to keep their job. And when I say that a healthy skepticism of these people is fair, at the very least, for people who could not see why, yes, I have concerns about what's going over in Ukraine and where the money is going. Yes, I have concerns of why money is continuously being funneled into the military, being funneled into the Pentagon, and rarely can we account for it. They have talked about Trump's tax returns for years. For years. His tax returns as a private citizen for years was a trending topic, a viral topic. Every single news agency was talking about it. How many news agencies you think are going to talk about this? Think about that for a second. Think about that for a second. How many news agencies do you think is going to be a viral mainstream media news stories that your Pentagon has failed a audit 5 consecutive times? Not only that, they said, oh, there's more. We'll give you $847 billion after that. This is so It's so crazy, man. It's so crazy. Last month, the Pentagon once again failed to pass a basic audit showing that it knows where its money goes. Or study said in a statement, instead of holding out for any kind of accountability, Congress stands ready to give a big raise to an agency that failed to account for more than 60% of its assets. Can you fail to account for 60% of your income? Do they give you that type of grace, understanding, leeway? Citing four people with familiar negotiations, Politico reported Wednesday that an emerging compromise on annual defense policy legislation is set to add $45 billion to President Joe Biden's already massive military spending request. The White House's March request for an $813 billion military budget for fiscal year 2023 represented a 31 billion increase over the current record-breaking sum of 782 billion. According to Politico, the deal would set the budget top line of the fiscal 2023 National Defense Authorization Act at 847 billion for national defense and would go as high as 858 billion when including programs that fall outside of the jurisdiction of the Senate and House Armed Services Committees. The Senate panel approved an equivalent military spending boost in June. The National Priorities Project called the bipartisan proposal to further increase military spending despite the Pentagon's persistent accounting and human rights failures as a sign of an agency that is too big, plain and simple. Other major government agencies have long since passed audits, but the Pentagon, with its global sprawl of more than 750 military installations and a budget increase alone, that alone could more than double the diplomacy budget at the State Department, is so big and disjointed that no one knows where its money goes. According to NPP, one solution would be to make the Pentagon a lot smaller. It has gotten so ridiculous and out of hand that they can't even account for the money. They do not know where the money is going. This story is not going to go viral. This is like, I want y'all to think about this for a second. Think about this for a second, right? The Pentagon has failed 5 consecutive audits, not being able to account for 60% of their assets. And then Congress turns around and say, hey, to congratulate you for your failure, we're going to reward you with another $847 billion. How many mainstream media news shows do you think are going to talk about this? How many of them are going to tell you this over and over, repeat it again and again? But you know what they will talk about? They'll talk about Elon Musk. They'll talk about Jeff Bezos. They'll make these private citizens the enemy, and they can't even account for the billions that we are sending to the Pentagon, that we are using for military spending. Do you notice these people never make themselves the enemy in this regard? It's always somebody else. It's always a private citizen with a private company. Keep in mind, this 847 billion that they're getting ready to hand over to the Pentagon, that comes from us. That comes from the taxpayers. And so they try to make the Jeff Bezos, the Elon Musk, they try to make these people the boogeyman. And the entire time, they're the boogeyman. The nerve, the gall to insist on a certain level of propaganda and programming about who should pay their share, their fair share. Try saying that three times twice. Three. I can't even say that part. Three times fast. Not three times twice. The nerve, the gall, okay, to continue this programming of who deserves to pay their share, their fair share, yet the money that's already being paid, you can't even account for it. You can't even keep up with it. You can't even handle it appropriately and correctly. Like, how does this make sense to people? And it's the same pulling the curtain. Don't look over here, look over there. How many people are going to actually hold them accountable for this? When will talking about this become a mainstream talking point? And the crazy part about it is that liberals, right, in the ideology of being a liberal in the past have been about peace, right? Ending war and all of these other things. And to see people being propagandized into supporting the things that they say that they are against, it's just crazy to me. So much so that if you even talk about peaceful negotiations, you are a Putin asset. You are speaking Russian propaganda to want to know what is happening to your tax dollar. To not agree with funding a proxy war where it is very clear that they are trying to weaken Russia, not help Ukraine. Not even to mention the fact that they get on TV every single day and tell us how citizens don't deserve AR-15s, how citizens, the Second Amendment is not supposed to be as it was written, and it meant something different then from what it means now. And the fact of the matter is, you can't even account for 90% of the weaponry that you sent to Ukraine. You supposedly care about life. You care about people being disarmed. You care about people having less firearms and less means to protect themselves. Yet you're just sending out firearms and weapons to Ukraine freely and have no clue what's happening with them. But at home, drilling the message into our heads that we don't, law abiding citizens, you want more rules and restrictions for us. you know what I can really say? Our government is the most do what I say, not as I do entity if I've ever seen one. Really just look us in our faces and tell us that you want to come up with all of these ways to disarm us and why we don't deserve certain weapons, and then to just casually, just send weapons over to Ukraine at rates where you can't even account for 90% of them. You don't have a care in a world where these weapons are going, who's getting their hands on them, what's happening with them, but have the nerve to virtue signal to the American people to draw this line in the sand that you are some arbiter of, oh, I want to protect people from gun violence. Is so contradictory. It's so hypocritical. And I really just want people to see the levels of hypocrisy that's going on here. And it's so much propaganda and programming to it. And don't get me wrong, huge numbers. When it comes to this military spending, it's like almost every single time. It doesn't matter what president is in office, whose administration it is. One thing about it, these red and blues get on board when it comes time to open this purse for military budgets. They start working together all of a sudden. You'll have a few that'll stand out and they'll say, oh, we don't support this for whatever the reason may be. But you want to find an issue where they really start lining up and you see a lot less arguing, going back and forth across the table. Start talking about these billions of dollars going into the defense budget. But this is not cool to talk about. This is not sexy to talk about, because they have us arguing and bickering over some of the most ridiculous, asinine, have nothing to do with nothing things. Yet every single time they open their purse for this military budget, it's affecting us with inflation. It's affecting future generations. It's affecting the debt. And you can believe it doesn't matter, but we're literally feeling effects of this now. And they've even used the war as the reason for why we're feeling this inflation, or an excuse for it. Oh, your groceries may be a little bit higher. Blame it on Putin. Even though we knew some of this inflation was coming anyway. But they definitely haven't stopped at any opportunity to not make it worse. To just watch the nerve and the audacity of how the Pentagon, the government, Congress is able to get away with so much that they would never let you get away. Do you think you could fail 5 consecutive audits at your job? Do you think you could do that? You know what would happen? They will fire you. They will fire you quickly. Probably after the first, dang for sure after the second. You would get fired if they didn't go on and investigate you to see what was happening with those funds. Tyler Perry recently talked about, I believe that was Tyler Perry if I'm not mistaken, and let me know in the chat, but I think it was Tyler Perry who said that uh they did an audit on him, and the government owed him some money back, and it was like a very significant amount of money. And he asked his team, like, how in the heck did y'all overlook this? And he fired them and got a new team. Okay. You think anybody that works in Hollywood, you think Tyler Perry, you think any of these actors, comedians, you think they gonna let you get away with losing their money or losing out or missing money? No, you're fired. That's it. End of discussion. I don't know many people in the private sector that wouldn't handle it in that way, right? However, the government thinks that they get special privileges. They get to lose our money. They get to casually lose money. They get to casually lose weapons, not be able to account for it. And the whole time, they want to send people after you for $600. Yes, that's right. In the upcoming year, if you use PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, and you send over $600 within a year, you could possibly get audited by the IRS. They're not going to let you sneak past with $600. Do you understand what I'm saying here? They have hired over 80,000 IRS agents. Might even be more than that. But I know at least over 80,000 agents to get on these streets, come to your door, and recoup their taxes, recoup their money. Did y'all know that IRS agents are allowed to carry firearms? So they're very okay. The government is very okay with violence. They're very okay with coming to your front door and looking for their money. But you better not question them. Then you're just a Russian asset. You're a Putin asset. You're a Russian puppet. You don't believe in human rights for Ukrainians. You evil person. How dare you question your God, the government? How dare you question the all knowing, all seeing, mighty government? How dare you? They're so perfect and mighty, they would never do wrong, right? 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 These people do so much wrong that if you don't care to know, you will never know, because they're mainstream media hitman. Like I said, this story is not going to go viral about these 5 failed audits. You may hear a whisper about the audit that's coming up, but they're not going to try to let a lot of wind and momentum get behind that. They're going to try to put it, under the rug. They're going to try to just brush it off as Russian propaganda, because the government doesn't like you turning that lens and that telescope, that microscope on them. They can't handle it, because a lot of these people are not good people. I don't know how much more. I can't even imagine being in DC and somebody being like, nah, we need to really see where these people's money is going, because they trusted us, they voted for us, like, we're in here, power to the people. And I can't imagine me being like, nah, that's Russian propaganda for people to want to know where their tax dollars are going. How dare they? The disrespect of it all. Y'all keep y'all AR-15s. I'm telling you, these people are hypocrites. They be lying. They be lying. Look. They can't. Mm. But anyway, all right, y'all. Thank y'all for tapping in. Please like and share this video. Also, if you are not subscribed to my channel, go ahead and click that subscription button below. Also, if you would like to support this channel, you can go over to RhondaMary.com where you can purchase merch. You can also find where to find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Thank you so much for everyone that has super chatted. And yeah, y'all, we'll be talking soon. Y'all have a good week. Bye.